its heart back and made it a home again. And I can bring it back to the world and say, oh my gosh, isn't this fabulous?
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
best part of selling a home,
I
is
bet.
watching something that was abused and sad and now has this new life.
My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Kevin C. McIntosh, host of the Closing Table podcast, and we are joined here today by another top producing real estate agent. We have the pleasure of speaking with Karen Blum. How are you, Karen?
I'm very good. Thank you for asking. How about yourself?
Absolutely great. Cannot complain. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today and be a guest on the Closing Table. We appreciate that. So we are here to talk about what's going on in real estate, more specifically in your market. Before we do that, Karen, I want to kind of introduce you to our audience. I want you to take this time now, 60 seconds or less. Tell us who you are outside of real estate, please.
Outside of real estate, I'm a mom, I'm a friend. I love doing art shows and craft shows and food fairs and just embracing Cleveland and seeing what's out there.
Love it, love it. Very short, sweet, and to the point. We appreciate that. Now, you just briefly touched on your market, Cleveland, so I want to dig into that a little bit more if you don't mind. I want you to describe your market. Two-part question, though, Karen. One, geographically. You already said Cleveland, but let's get into a little bit more details. Get into some other local areas that's nearby. Get into some notable landmarks, attractions, things to do. Paint a picture for people who may have never been there. Second part of the question, get into some of the real estate facts and stats and data that's going on in that market.
So I tend to be mostly Southeast Ohio. So that would be Summit, Geauga, Cuyahoga, and Portage counties. It ranges. There's city atmosphere, there's country atmosphere. So it just depends how far and where you are in it. So you can have like a county fair or an art show, or you can have just like great shopping, great food. It just depends on where you are within each county.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. And what's going on as far as real estate there? You have any numbers for us? Any data?
Still brisk. The price per square foot is still somewhat rising. Days on the market is about 30 days,
Oh, wow.
depending on how it's priced.
Wow.
List price is staying fairly steady. It's selling at or slightly above list price still.
Okay.
Unless it's been overpriced, in which case, that those are the ones that are sitting a little bit longer.
Right. Okay. As far as price points, purchase price, what's average? 200, 300, 400?
Again, it really depends. Every
Okay.
city is so diverse, and what's great about it, like Shaker Heights, you can buy a home for 70, 80, 90,000, or you can spend a couple million.
Oh, wow.
Same
Yeah.
in, Summit County, same in Cuyahoga, same in Portage. They all have such a wide variety that anyone can find a home in their price point. It's just looking for the right one and the right fit.
Got you. Okay. Interesting. I can see that. It's pretty much the same thing in most markets for the most part. You have a wide range of pricing. And if you price it the right way, it'll usually go a little bit quicker than if you price it higher than what it is in that current area. So, all right, great
Right. It's the
insight.
best part of Cleveland.
Love that.
We have everything for anyone.
Love that. Okay. So let's talk about throughout your career and all the homes and properties that you've seen. I want to hear an interesting story of the weirdest, strangest, oddest thing you've ever seen in the property.
I wouldn't say that I've seen anything that says, oh my gosh, that's so weird. I work with a lot of flippers, so I've seen a lot of conditions that are just sad. I always feel
Oh.
like a house has a heart. And when I see a house that's been neglected and needs love brought back to it, that's always so difficult for me. And what I
Mm,
love is when they have revitalized the home, given it its heart back, and made it a home again. And I can bring it back to the world and say, oh my gosh, isn't this fabulous?
mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
the best part of selling a home,
I
is
bet.
watching something that was abused and sad and now has this new life.
Yes. And not only that, but you actually provided that home to someone who needed a home. So now they're in the home, probably, raising a family now or whatever the
Right,
case may be. I would take a lot of pride in that too. So I 100% get it, especially within your community too. So you directly see the effects of it. That's beautiful.
right.
You have a philosophy, I see, doing the right thing every time. It's the philosophy everyone should be going by, but to each his
Yeah.
own. Can you talk about a challenging situation where it may have seemed like sticking to this philosophy was difficult, but you still did it and it ended up having a great outcome for your client?
I can say it's never been bad to do that.
Great answer.
I'm a fourth generation realtor,
Mm-hmm.
and
Nice.
that is the philosophy that my gram used, that my mom used. I didn't know my great grandfather, but I'm sure that's what he did. And it never, ever fails. It's just doing it with kindness. Um, it's kind of a bit of the art background I had where you learn how to positively critique something. And if you
Mm,
always tell the truth and you do it with kindness in their best interest, it never backfires because it's never coming from a bad place. It's always a positive feedback. And running your business ethically should never, ever be a bad choice.
mm, great point. Great point. I would agree with that too. As long as and that kind of goes in with the golden rule, like I like to say, treat others
Yes,
how you want to be treated, and as long as you
right.
stay
I
with
always
that,
tell my kids, like
mm-hmm,
being a kindergarten rule, right? Those things you
exactly,
learn the first day of kindergarten, that's
mm-hmm.
absolutely it.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. Yeah, and that's great. That's great because it may seem in certain situations ethical dilemmas could have you in a bunch, but like you said, as long as you're and not only just doing the right thing, but doing the right thing for your client, what
That's the
they consider.
key.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a big difference
Yeah,
between
I
doing
never
what you think
do
is the right
me
thing and them.
first.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, gee, I can make more money if I say this or do that. It's not, I'm going to buy this listing so they choose me. I tell you flat out, this is what it is. This is what it means. And that's how I run my life and my business. Somewhat brutally honest, but what I say is what I mean.
Correct. Correct. Love that. Love that. And provide that guidance. Speaking of guidance, sometimes you have to guide clients because they have no idea what's going on. Sometimes you have clients that feel like they know everything was going on and, they may not need your help as much. But regardless, you are there for your clients. And this situation is a big situation, buying and selling a home. So can you talk about whether or not
Yes.
you've had to deal with a difficult or demanding client and how you navigate or manage that situation and or relationship?
I think every client, when they're buying a home, has very strong expectations.
Great
It's
point.
the biggest purchase in their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not having some kind of demanding need, it I've never seen that. Like they
Mm.
all are looking and wanting your expertise and needing guidance. What I tell people is when you start a transaction, there's always going to be something wrong. Something's going to happen. You're going to get upset. You're going to get mad. You're going to want to yell at me, and that's okay.
Mm.
But no, I've got your back. I'm going to make it better, and this is all going to be fine. And my goal is to fix the problems before you knew they ever happened.
Mm. I love that.
So, things pop up. They always do. And it's making the transaction as smooth as possible, keeping them as happy as can be, and getting them across the finish line, because most people don't buy houses every day
Of
and they
course.
don't know what they don't know. And my
Hmm.
job is to know it all and to get them through and across that finish line and into the home that they love, or get the house sold.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. See, one thing that I like about that disclaimer that you said is, well, I'm not even gonna say I like, but I guess I have a question from that. Have you ever been yelled at from a client?
Sure.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's just that they get upset, or something happens. There's a problem with lending and they don't like what's going on there, or inspection report came back and they don't want to fix something. And it's just kind of being the cooler head and saying, okay, look, I get it,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to take a step back and we need to really look at this and figure out, is it worth this to you?
Mm.
And getting them to calm down and relook at something and take a new approach. And then, if appraisal comes back and it under appraises, they are not happy.
Uh,
So you just have to kind of relax and say, okay, look, I get it. We're going to figure this out. And that's what my job is. I
Good, great.
figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that right there. I love that. I'm the same way. You mentioned earlier that you have a background in art. Let's talk about that a little bit. Your connection
I
and
do.
love for arts and real estate is very intriguing. Can you share a story about how a specific piece of art or creative experience influenced your perception on a property or maybe a specific neighborhood?
I don't know that it necessarily influences my feeling of a neighborhood or a house.
Okay.
What I can tell you is, because I've studied so much art, it makes me appreciate almost everything. And what I find really interesting is when I walk into somebody's home and I see what they've chosen for their art and what
Mm,
their knickknacks are or collectibles and how they display it, because it gives me insight into who they are and helps me connect with them as people. I get to go and view people, all aspects of their life. And, most people don't go into somebody's bedroom. I go into a lot of people's bedrooms. You talk about learning who people are by what art they have on the wall.
right, right.
Walking into someone's basement and seeing what they have stored, like the man cave,
Mm-hmm.
and what his heart is.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you such great insight into people. And because I like so many different genres, it just makes life interesting for me within that house. Um, the only other thing I could say about my art background is it does help me with staging,
Great point.
because I can look
Yes.
at things differently and say,
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you just move this slightly to the right,
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
if you slightly declutter this, it gives me a different eye. But that would be the main thing. I don't really like to make people change their world and their life. I don't think that's my job. It's to help them see what they have and what they love and maybe tweak it a little bit.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I was literally going to ask that question in regard. I guess it was more in the sense of have you ever helped a client decorate a home after purchase with your vision for art? But staging is pretty much the same thing, kind of, right?
Yeah.
But have you ever had that opportunity?
I have not decorated somebody's home. I have come in and said, what would be great is if you do this or that. Like, I've
Okay.
given them big picture inspiration. Like, I had one client and we were looking at the house, and this one room was actually a living room. And I said, you really need to put a wall here, close this off, and turn it into a master suite. And she did it.
Oh
And
wow.
there was, with all of my flippers, they bring me in with the eye of design, thinking, oh, what if you took out this wall? What if you move this? What if you do that? You need more closet. This will help. It's sellability to people and what they're desiring. So
Mm,
it does come out that way, but I'm not inside interior designing. What I
okay.
can tell you is the downside of being a realtor, especially a fourth generation, is I have moved over 20 times.
Really?
And the thing is, you go in, you fall in love with the house, you decorate the house, and then you move on to the next. So it's a good and bad thing.
Woo.
So it's usually more for myself than someone else's home.
Oh my goodness, Karen. Listen, I hate moving, period. But the fact that you say you moved 20 times, oh my goodness. Wow.
More than I stopped counting.
Oh wow. Wow. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So you would know a
But you
lot
have to
about
keep
the
in mind my
process.
mom's a realtor too.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. But that just shows you know a
So
lot about the process of putting homes together, creating homes and seeing the vision for the home. So that just goes into that.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow, 20 times is
Well, it's
crazy or
also how
more.
I got to know so much of Cleveland.
Ah, good point. Good. So it's all
So
been
I
in that
lived
Cleveland
everywhere
metro
from
area.
Shaker all the way out to Aurora.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so that does
Actually, in
get you.
Cleveland Heights also.
Okay, so that does get you familiar with the area a lot more. You're born and raised in that area?
So born in Pennsylvania, we moved here when I was like 2. So I've lived in Rocky River, Shaker Heights, Cleveland Heights, Orange, Pepper Pike, Moreland
Mm-hmm.
Hills,
Mm,
Chagrin Falls, Aurora, Solon, Kent.
nice.
But I've moved a
Everywhere.
couple times within those cities too.
Okay, okay. Nice, nice. Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, yeah, you get to know the city and the market a little bit more, the area. That's great to hear. That's great to hear. I want to talk about what your perspective is in regards to the most challenging aspect in the industry. More importantly, do you have any situations that you've been through that kind of exemplifies this actual challenge within the industry, and how have you managed it?
I think the hardest part is getting it from signed contract to closed. There's so many little things that pop up, whether there's a cloud on the title or you're trying to get something fixed that came up during inspections, say like a septic system fail, or just any kind of little minutia like that, and trying to get it all connected, finished, fixed, and to closing is always where the challenge is. The biggest way to kind of fix everything is to have really good working relationships with other realtors.
Mm,
Because in the end, what happens is it's me calling her or him and saying, hey, we have a problem. How are we going to get this to work? We need to bring all sides and come to an agreement. And I can think of a couple times where I have literally sat across the table with the other agent and our clients, and the four of us have said, you want to sell, you want to buy, this is the problem. What is our happy medium where both
mm-hmm,
parties are equally happy or
mm.
unhappy?
Oh
But as
wow.
long as we're both in a same
Correct.
spot
Mm-hmm.
and we can come to an agreement, then it gets fixed. And
Mm.
so it's always, you don't see where the biggest problems are and where the hardest part is, because that's why you pay me.
Good point. I like that. I like that. Yeah, let the expert handle the difficult part of the transaction, essentially. Yeah, it makes sense. 1 + 1 = 2. You already spoke on dealing with inspections and that being a part of the transaction. You have any standout situations where you did get an inspection and maybe it came back and threatened a pending sale? And can you talk about how you navigated it?
Yeah, it's right back to having a conversation with another agent. We had a septic system that needed inspection. The house had been vacant for a long period of time. Lending wasn't going to lend unless the inspection happened, but you legally can't inspect.
Hmm?
So you have to live in the house for 60 days before you can inspect a septic system.
Really? Really? Oh wow.
Yeah, so you can't just, if the house is vacant, you can't just say, okay, let's go. So
Whoa.
it came down to really good working relations with another agent where we put heads together and said, how are we going to get these people to make this work? Because it's a problem that's always going to exist on the selling side, and you have a buyer who very much wants this home.
Hmm.
So it's a conversation. It's good communication, good negotiating skills with both client and buyer to get them both where they want to be. And in
Okay.
the end, both sides ended up completely happy.
Okay.
And our job is always to do what's best for our client or customer. And
Mm,
by working well with others, you're able to do that.
got you. That's interesting. So in that specific situation, I would assume the seller paid for that inspection.
It's always negotiable.
Hmm.
Um, so the buyer pays for the inspection, usually as part of the inspection process. So you choose, what are you having inspected? Am I having a general inspection, well, septic, lead? Just there's a list and
Okay.
radon. We go through the list and say, what do you want to have inspected?
Mhm.
And then the buyer says either I will pay for it or we want you to pay for it. The seller says, yes, I'll do it, or no, I won't. And we get to an agreement of who's paying for what inspections. Inspections happen, and then we negotiate if anything comes bad.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was interesting about the septic tank inspection because I had no idea. You said if no one is living in that home within 60
Yeah,
days. Go
yeah,
ahead.
it has to be. You have to have somebody actively using the septic to know if it's a good septic or not.
Wow. 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 Interesting. Thank you for that knowledge. Thank you for that knowledge. We appreciate that. You're in the Midwest region, so we're in the Midwest region also here in Michigan. So we get the snow, of course. We get the sunshine, we get the rain, we get it all. Depending on your region, buying or selling during the winter holiday season can be very, very difficult. You know, in Midwest, we get that snow, but you give your list of reasons why it's a good time to buy and sell during that time. Do you have any example of a situation that gives that theory validity?
Well, first of all, it's always a good time to buy and sell.
Of course. Great answer.
When you need to move, you need to move. And that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Life happens, changes happen all the time.
Yeah.
So it's never a bad time.
Hmm.
What I can say is when you look at a house during the holiday season, you see the life, the love, the heart, the cheer. And the house never looks happier than during the holiday season. So,
I
how do
like
you
that.
not walk into a home and think, yes, this is great? Um, it's it's just something that doesn't matter if it's a life event that happens. You make the move, and that's all there is to it.
Mm.
And there's only so many houses that call to you. And I'm a firm believer that the house picks you. You don't pick the house.
Ooh.
So when you walk in and the house has picked you, how do you not say yes? Let's go.
Mm. You kind of just know it. You just get that feeling. This is it. This is the one.
I firmly believe that the house picks you.
What about you? And I love the way you just broke that down during the holiday. First of all, great answer. Anytime is a great time to buy or sell. Love that. But I was thinking you would go under the answer of, if you go see a home during the winter time, the snow, when the snow is melting, maybe you could see leaks and things like that. But I love the approach that you made about the holiday season being one of the most warming, welcoming, loving seasons. And if you're gonna feel that love and that type of feel the essence of a home inside of a house, the holiday season would be the perfect time to do that. Never thought
Right.
about that, but with you being an expert and experiencing that, I can see that being a great POV. So great, I'm gonna have to keep that in consideration now. I love that. I love that. Karen, I have what I consider one of the most valuable questions on the show for an audience who are looking to purchase a
Okay.
home. So I want to ask you, knowing what you know today in today's market and the resources that are available, if you yourself, Karen, is in the position of being a first-time home buyer in today's market, what approach would you take to purchasing your first home?
First thing, get pre approved, hands down. You need to know what you can afford. You need to know what the monthly payment would be. Um, Before you put an offer, contact the loan officer to make sure that you can still afford, because every county has different taxes. If you're buying in a township, you don't have RETA. So you just have to know what you're doing and know that you can afford it and that you're comfortable financially. Second thing I would say is find out what my must-haves are,
Mm-hmm.
my deal breakers. I need air conditioning. I don't want a septic system. I want a two-car garage. Whatever your must-haves, know what that is. I need to
Mm-hmm.
be within 30 minutes of work. Those things are deal breakers. What are your negotiable items? And what are your I absolutely do not want? I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to fix something up. If you're in a lower, like if you're in the 200s, it might be a little harder to find something that's 100% done,
Right.
but
Turnkey.
you need to know what your capability is and kind of go from there.
Great suggestions. The things that you must have, the things that are negotiable, the things that you absolutely do not want. I like the way you break that down right there. I haven't heard that yet,
Thanks.
so we'll have to take that going forward. Well, thank you so much, Karen. I don't want to hold up too much more of your time. We appreciate you taking out the time you did to pull up a chair to the closing table. At this point, if you
Well,
have
thank you
any
for having
last
me.
words and or want to tell people how to reach out to you, please do so now.
So, Karen Blum, thank you for taking time to listen to me. I am with Howard Hanna in Aurora. Please feel free to reach out to me directly at my website, karenblum.howardhanna.com, or give me a call, 440-227-0873.
There it is. Thank you so much again, Karen. We appreciate it. And for our YouTube audience watching right now, if you've gotten to this point in the episode, this is where you do us both a favor and you hit the like button. Please and thank you. Make sure you also share the content and subscribe to our channel. And if you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platform, please do the same. Give us a like, a 5-star rating, and subscribe for our latest content. As a matter of fact, Karen, before we get out of here, talking to the audience right now, I like our audience to leave with a question on their brain, so they can leave the chat thinking about something. So this is for you, audience. Have you ever bought or sold a home during the winter or snow season? And if so, what did you like or dislike about it? Don't tell us now. Leave it in the comments below. Besides that, we'll talk to you next time.